Welcome everyone to the Nerd Nook. I'm your host Evan Teak, and with me, like always, is Noah Bailey. So today we're gonna be reviewing Deadpool and Wolverine. Just at the top, just know that San Diego Comic Con did just happen this past weekend, but we're gonna review all of that stuff later. Need a little more time just to digest that. Right now, we're just talking about Deadpool and Wolverine because we need to talk about that. Because yeah, well, first, what are your just initial thoughts on the movie itself?
I mean, it was Deadpool 3. It was pretty, I liked it.
Hmm.
It was, I expected a really good movie. I got a really good movie. I got more references, cameos than I ever would have thought. And
Yeah.
yeah, it was really good. I mean, the story made no sense, but it doesn't really matter because it's Deadpool. You don't really, doesn't really, who cares?
Hmm.
It was really good. Hugh Jackman was as Wolverine as he's ever been. It was great. I mean, some of the cameos were just like really that I did not see that coming at all, and like very prominent also, which was very surprising.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, just but yeah, it was really good. Some really good action scenes, some really good effects also that really kind of like, oh, that's kind of crazy.
Hmm.
And yeah, it's awesome. It is, yeah, that's part of my weekend so far for sure by a mile.
Honestly, yeah, like I really enjoyed it. Like I think the standout for me was the action scenes. Pretty much every
Yeah,
action scene was some of the best Marvel action I've ever seen. Um, like both fights between Deadpool and Wolverine, I thought were very strong. The second one especially was really good. Um, that one tracking shot with Deadpool Wolverine against the Deadpool cooler was spectacular. Uh, uh like the Freedom Fighters, which we'll get to them specifically later against the Cassandra's team, but just and especially the very start of this movie with Deadpool against those TVA agents. Like that was that what a way to start your movie.
just just in case anyone was unsure how rated R was gonna be, they're like, let's just put this to bed right away.
Yeah.
This
Hmm.
is gonna we're using
Yeah.
every bit of this rating.
Yeah. Like genuinely, I think there's only like really two criticisms that I have for the movie, and one of them is so nitpicky you probably won't even like agree with it. One is I feel like there were more jokes in this movie that didn't land than there were in previous Deadpool. It's like I thought this movie was still very funny, but I think the amount of jokes that didn't land was just greater than the previous movies. Although the movie is about 20 minutes longer than those, so it's not like that unreasonable to think that there would be like a higher volume of jokes, therefore more could miss. However, I just feel like a lot of the jokes by the end of it felt a little repetitive and like some went on just a little too long, but still like I think the individual jokes that were really funny, I think were funnier than Deadpool 1 and 2. That makes
Yeah,
sense.
definitely. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there were definitely some gimmicks that I was kind of like I didn't like as much as some other things,
Mm,
but I think other people like them, so it's like, yeah, maybe that's me, maybe it's whatever. But
yeah.
yeah, like I like the dog fool. I didn't really care about the
I
dog thing. I
I
didn't
love Deadpool.
see, like that's what I mean. Like it's like I liked what happened because of the dog, but I didn't think I thought the dog was kind of stupid. Like I didn't really
Mm,
like. I liked the like. Oh yeah,
mm.
the human shit with the one not
Yeah,
regenerative, which is like, why is he not? Why is he the only one who
it's
doesn't
just
have
Ryan Reynolds like just
Just like I don't understand. Like I don't. Oh, that was a
mm.
good one. But
And
yeah,
the
but I mean,
only
there's
other real criticism I have with the movie is during that first fight between Deadpool and Wolverine. Again, I think the fight itself was very good. Like I especially liked Wolverine like charging at Deadpool, like Wolverine never has moved like that before, and I like actually seeing him doing that. Um, and just the way the fight itself happened, I thought was very good, if not a little short. But then that one happened later, so it made up for it. I again super nitpicky, but like when Deadpool and Wolverine are talking and like in they're squaring up, about to fight, the bells from the ACDC song "Hell's Bells" are playing. That's one of my all-time favorite ACDC songs. Like those those things are playing, and then like, the music starts ramping up, and then like it gets to like about to like really start going, and then the music cut out, and then they started fighting, and the music cut back in, and then something happened, and the music stopped, and then it went back in, and then it did the chorus, and then it was over. Like I just felt like that song is a really good song to have a fight like this too. I just feel like the way it was implemented was just kind of awkward and made the fight feel less epic than. But maybe just because I was expecting more because I like that song so much. But like maybe I was just distracted by that. I couldn't appreciate the fight more. Probably on a second viewing that I know is going to be doing that, I'll appreciate it more. But again, because that second fight in the car was so good and like utilized the music way better, and I think like because that fight exists, it made up for any awkwardness I had with that first fight. So again, barely even a real criticism. It's just something that kind of irked me. But other than that, no real other complaints.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, the music I didn't even notice. So like that's yeah, I think you really like it, and that's fair. But yeah, I mean, complaint wise, it's not really any. I mean, maybe. Mm, I don't know. Like it's kind of one of those movies. Again, it just depends on if all you expected was a funny movie with great action. That's exactly what you got. And I feel like
Yes.
if you expected more, you didn't really know what you were
Hmm.
like the movie was trying to be. I guess.
Yes. And I think that's something that people kind of need to understand when they're talking about a movie, critiquing this movie, etc. Is um is like when am I frozen? What is happening? Are you still there?
I am here, but you're frozen with your hand like
Oh,
this.
weird. Huh.
Hmm. Are you? Can you see that you're frozen in your picture?
Yeah, I can see that I'm frozen. That's weird. I can,
So you're moving, but like your picture's just not.
I can see you just fine. Oh, I'm back. I'm back.
Okay,
Okay.
there it is. I was about to say
Okay.
maybe turn your camera off and turn it back on. Actually, what happens if you turn your camera off like this?
It's a good question.
Oh,
Oh, um,
yes.
okay.
Can we please end the podcast doing that? Like in sync, just like that would be so cool. Like, come on, that's like especially with the chair. Like, we gotta do that at
Just
least one. That is so awesome.
just teleport
Yeah,
away.
no, just
Yeah,
like
I
it's
think we're better.
real. Like, yeah, yeah.
As I was trying to say before teams interrupted me, I think something that people need to understand when talking about this movie and critiquing this movie and movies like this is the fact that this movie is not taking itself seriously at all. And that's fine. That's the purpose of this. Like there are serious moments and there is like an emotional core to it, but because it's Deadpool and because like it just is the kind of movie that it is kind of barely a movie in the same way that Endgame is kind of barely a movie. It's just a celebration of Deadpool and Wolverine and all the Fox property as a whole.
Yes.
So when there are random cameos, when there is just ridiculousness and like when there is stuff that like could be seen as just smashing action figures together or gratuitous cameos or whatever, like or references that don't make sense, like that's kind of what we're here for. So I it didn't bother me at all, especially since considering in this movie, I feel like almost all the cameos were incorporated into the story very fluidly, so it didn't really like bother me. Whereas something like Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness, and especially The Flash, which had scenes that were kind of equivalent to the like team up towards the end, because those movies were taking themselves way more seriously, and obviously, Doctor Strange had the why am I blanking on his name? Why am I blanking on his name? I literally just had the Sam Raimi flair to it, but it was still like a serious, a serious Marvel movie. Those cameos felt a little more out of place in that movie as opposed to something like this. Does that make sense?
Hmm?
Yeah. And especially I have seen people try to be like, you all need to give an apology to the Flash. If you liked this one, then you can't hate that. Like, no, 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 no. Every actor, every cameo that took place in this movie, the actors signed off on. They're actually a part of the movie as opposed to having various dead Superman actors' corpses CG'd for no reason. Having like it just doesn't. No, it's not the same thing. And like to kind of exactly parallel what I'm trying to get at here, I'm just gonna go ahead and like spoil one of the biggest reveals in this movie. They when the like freedom fighters of the Void came together, one of those was Channing Tatum's Gambit.
Amazing.
Spectacular. Like we've even reported a couple of times on this podcast that they've been trying to make a Channing Tatum Gambit movie for years, since like 2011. It's been ridiculous how long they've been trying to make this movie happen. Um, and it just like kept getting delayed, kept just so many things happening, and it just never got made.
The voice and like ridiculous, like the amount of he like continued to get more understandable as the movie went on was so funny.
Who's
Like
your
he's not
voice
even
acting
talking
coach? The Minions? Like, that was that's probably the best joke of the movie.
That was amazing. The theater erupted at that joke. That was amazing.
Like he wasn't even speaking French. He was just
He
like
was just like saying, like he's just saying words, like.
Like I really want to know what the subtitles would have said there. Was it just like Cajun gibberish, or was it like actually? Was it supposed to be anything? I don't know.
Probably not. Like by the end, it was probably just like talks to say something you can't even understand. Like
Yeah. So take Gambit, who actually was a pretty significant player in the last like third of this movie. Like once he was in the movie as a cameo, he stuck around and like actually took part in the
right.
movie. Compare that to cameos from the other two movies I mentioned, John Krasinski, Reed Richards, and Nick Cage, Superman from The Flash. John Krasinski, that was a fan cast that people on the internet were like, it would be fun if he played that character. So they got him to play Reed for 5 minutes of screen time, and then they killed him off. It's just not really the same thing as this guy who was promised this role for 10 years at least, and now finally gets to play him.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with Nick Cage, where like that movie, that's closer to this, but even then, not really, because like Nick Cage almost played Superman in the 90s, but then they just decided to scrap that movie very early into production. But also, it's also not even close to the same because he's on screen for 5 seconds. Like, I don't even know if Nick Cage was even like there in the studio or if they just CG'd Nick Cage onto something. Like, it's not the same thing at all. He's not part of that movie.
I like to imagine they didn't even tell him. He's just going to the movies like, is that me?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's entirely possible. So, like, when you have all these crazy cameos that no one expected in Deadpool and Wolverine. It feels more like a celebration of everything that came before, as opposed to just random people being in this movie as like variants or as possibilities or as it's I feel like it's completely different, and I feel like the movie incorporated them in a way that most other you know that most other movies have kind of tried to do, but in a way better way that other movies have tried and failed to do. Leave it at that. That makes sense.
Mm.
Yeah. But kind of going off that, Blade was again someone I was not at all expecting
Out
to
of
be in.
nowhere. Just, I was like, no, I'm like, are we doing it? Oh my gosh, we're doing it. I did
Because
not.
apparently Ryan Reynolds he's in Blade Trinity, and apparently him and Wesley Snipes hated each other on set. And they even like made a joke about that in this movie. So I guess they made up, but like I was not at all expecting him.
I'm like, I don't think anyone on Earth had Wesley Snipes as Blade in this movie on their bingo card.
Yeah. And like his whole purpose is just to say ridiculously dumb one-liners.
But the best one.
Yeah, that was so good.
And he's right. Like that's the funny part. He's right.
Yeah.
That movie's never coming out.
Uh-huh.
There's only gonna be
one
Blade.
Blade.
And he's not really wrong because like we've been saying for years that movie's not gonna happen.
It's supposed to come out next year, maybe. I don't know.
What? Do they even have a director now? Like, I mean, I don't even
No,
like.
they don't.
Right? Like, your movie's coming out next year. I mean, that's come on, like that.
Maybe at D23 they'll confirm something, but somehow I doubt it.
Nah, it's not happening. It's not.
No.
It's over. Like, it's okay. We tried.
And then Elektra from Daredevil.
Well, they called Ben, and Ben said no. So it's like, well,
Yeah, like, how about her?
which I don't blame him. I would have said no too. But
Mm-hmm. They made a joke about that where he's like, so many people have died, Magneto, Quicksilver, Daredevil. Oh, Daredevil, I'm sorry. And she was like, yeah, it's fine. It's just funny. Jennifer Gardner and Ben Affleck were actually married, like I think for like a couple years after that movie came out, and they got divorced. So like that's
right?
like
Like
there's a couple little
not
jokes
that big
like
of a
that
loss.
that are like kind of more meta, and that's I dig that.
Gosh.
Um,
There was another joke like that.
Yeah, we'll get to that in just a second. But I do find Elektra's inclusion to be especially like funny conceptually because she doesn't have powers. How the heck did she survive this so long? Like, yeah, Gambit and Blade, they're ridiculously overpowered even in their universe. She just a ninja. Like, how does she survive against someone like all the people she's?
I mean, they saw her playground fighting skills and they didn't want to take the chance.
I guess. But I do think, I don't know which is my favorite cameo, but like definitely up there is the Chris Evans one. Like,
and like not realizing how this was gonna go was amazing.
I figured out immediately. I felt proud of myself.
See, I had no idea. Like we were both watching it. We were like, "Wait, what are they? How's this gonna go? Like, what are we?" Until I realized the 20th Century Fox thing, I didn't realize oh, this is what we're doing. Like, no. But he's gonna say it. Oh, amazing.
And then I love how they immediately like undercut that by just showing just how overpowered mutants are in the Marvel universe, because Pyro just absolutely decimated.
He's like, nah.
That's how that would go. Mutants are ridiculously overpowered. Like there's literally, it's weird that they're even in the same universe, because that like those kind of interactions just.
Well, it's one of those things where it's like we kind of just forget about mutants because, like, if we don't, then like we can't really do anything.
Mm-hmm. I kind of, in my head, I kind of compartmentalize mutants away from the MCU, kind of in the same way I do Batman from the rest of the Justice League, because like it almost feels like the Batman that's in the Justice League and the Batman that exists in Gotham have to be different characters because they scale so differently.
Right.
Like, how do you go up against like Justice League level threats and then come back and get your back broken by Bane or
no, literally, no, it's like you can't be dodging Omega beams and like saving the galaxy, and then it's like, dang, the Penguin got away. Like, really? Like, no,
it's
man.
Mr. Freeze. Like, come on.
Like, I've saved galaxies, bro. Like, we're past that. I mean,
yeah,
agreed. And like, yeah. Literally, yeah. Like, you've been to space, like.
But like, kind of in that same vein, like all of the X-Men are Omega level mutants at this point. So Storm could literally one-shot any Avenger level threat. Like,
yeah, like Bobby just like set an ice age off because, like
literally freeze hell over because he can.
The most unreal thing.
Oh no, Mephisto, your entire realm was gone. Like, oh, okay. But regardless, I really liked that they were able to use Chris Evans in this role that like clearly isn't the exact same Human Torch as those Fox movies, but still was reminiscent of that. But possibly like outside of Gambit, possibly my favorite cameo was the the Henry Cavill Wolverine. Which is, I guess, technically more similar to the John Krasinski Mr. Fantastic, because people have been like fan casting him despite him being a foot taller than Wolverine should be. But regardless, like he did look really good as Wolverine with the mutton chops and the white beater. Like he looked the part very well. I loved how he even did the like arm pumps from the Mission Impossible trailer. Like that's
just a thing now. I like it.
Like I do hope that like this is just like him getting his foot in the door to be someone in the future at Marvel. I don't know exactly who. I know there have been various fan casts for him, but obviously I don't think he should play Wolverine, because I really do think that someone younger and shorter should play Wolverine going forward. Like Hugh Jackman, I feel like it's always been weird that he's over 6 feet and is like the Wolverine. Like, yeah, I feel that kind of takes away from what Wolverine really is in the comics. But I'm not like, if they did do Henry Cavill, it wouldn't like riot or anything,
Yeah.
Was it? The Hulk had a fun little cameo for half a second. That was fun nod.
Didn't you fight Hulk in that costume?
Yeah. Which that costume specifically looked very good. Like as much as I liked the blue and yellow, I think that brown one that he wore in that scene looked particularly good on Hugh Jackman. Yeah, like outside of just, are there any other like cameos or anything else like in that vein that you want to talk about?
I mean, those were the main cameo. I mean, I do like how they got like everybody back. I mean, a bunch of like I mean, they even got the like, I forget what her name was, like the girl with the like knife fingertips from
Yeah, yeah.
X2. Sabretooth, obviously.
Her name is Lady Deathstrike.
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean she was in there. I mean there was a lot. There was a lot of cameos, like little ones in there. I was like,
My
wow, they
brother
got
and I
everybody.
lost it at Azazel, the red teleporting guy. Every time he was on screen, he was just like teleport, just like for no reason.
I mean, but like, wouldn't you if you had
No,
teleportation? No.
I mean that teleporting would be my ideal superpower, and I would just do it all the time. But like,
That's what I'm saying. Just to flex, because you can. Like, dang, I
like
wish
they're
I was
all
over
lined
there
up,
right
and he
now.
just goes from one side of the lineup to the other for no reason. Just like,
It's like, who is this for? They don't know. Like,
mm. um, yeah, like they got Ray Park to be Toad again.
yeah.
So yeah, but again, I feel like every single cameo that was in this was very purposeful and like actually served the movie and really did feel like a celebration of of everything, and I like that. Um, yeah, so much so that like I especially just I literally almost got teary eyed during the credits when they were doing that like blooper
Mm.
reel of all the past Fox stuff. Like that was, I thought, very very good send off to this entire thing. I thought that was very well done.
Yeah, I thought it was really awesome too. And like, especially not realizing going in what this was going to be kind of like a
Mm.
mini like tribute movie kind of thing too. I think it was really cool, like in its own way, of course. But yeah,
Mm. And it's like after that ended, I was just kind of sitting there and was like, wow, that right there is the last time any movie is ever gonna have the 20th Century Fox logo in it ever again.
yeah,
Like
it's wild to
that's
think about.
wild.
And you know what's crazy? Like that's always gonna be like, we're always gonna see it, and we're always gonna know immediately when you hear like, the credit and the like, you know what I mean? Like you're just gonna hear
Yeah.
it forever. But like in a few years, like that's gonna be how you know you're old. It's like we're gonna see those memes where it's like, how old are you? Me, and it's like the lights and
uh,
the big logo, and it's just like, oh gosh, like
it's just saying 20th Century Studios
another part
just
of history.
looks wrong. It just looks wrong. 20th Century Studios, like no, the Fox should be there. Like
Yeah, the
no, it's
foxes.
yeah, like you can't. Like I appreciated the for I think at least since X2, but like for most of the X-Men movies, I liked how when it faded away, the X in the Fox like stayed on for a little bit
Mm-hmm.
longer and like just signified this is an X-Men movie. They tried to do that with Fantastic Four, the reboot from 2015 with the F, but obviously that didn't go anywhere. Like you can't really do that with Century Studios. Like it's not the same. Um, trying to think. What did you? How did you feel about like the villains specifically, Cassandra, and then also Paradox? Did you think that they were a good adversary, or did it really matter for this movie?
I mean, kind of like we said earlier, this wasn't really a movie where like the plot really mattered. I mean, Paradox seemed like every TVA goon ever. So like,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't really matter what I mean, his motivations were just I'm just a bad guy basically. I mean, he pretty much was the mustache twirler. So, which is fine because again, this movie's not about the villain. Like, we don't really care. Like, it's not about it. I thought the actual like, oh my god, what is it? What is it? Not the I almost said Xavier, but what's her name?
Cassandra,
Cassandra,
Cassandra
right?
Nova.
Yeah, Cassandra. Yeah, I thought Cassandra was actually a lot better because she was just really intimidating. And when you have a character who, multiple characters who basically can't die, it is intimidating to be like, oh, but like she can too. And I really liked how she wasn't just like, yeah, I mean, she did insta kill some people, but like I like how it was deeper than that for a lot of things. Like the whole grabbing your face from the inside thing was super like creepy and
Yes.
like really good, like really good effect too. Like you looked like your
Hmm.
fingers were coming out of your eye socket. Like, it was really like stuff like that. So I think that was done really well because it was very intimidating. And at no point did you feel like she was like losing. It was kind of just like she's more allowing you to think you're winning. So I think that was a really good job. And also just you had to have a force that is just like insane when you're going up against Deadpool. So it works.
Hmm. Yeah. And I really liked how I think this was the first, maybe it wasn't the first mention, but at least the first use of Juggernaut's helmet actually like doing what it's supposed to do in these movies. Because I think it was referenced once in Deadpool 2 when that Juggernaut showed up. Like he referenced um how he can't be controlled by mind readers, but them actually like taking off of that Juggernaut and putting it on Cassandra, I thought was a very was good, but also like how that wasn't like the win condition, like how they're
Mm-hmm.
like they they utilized it, but they didn't they they still were able to keep going with the character after that. So I thought that was done well.
Yeah.
Um, it is kind of funny that like I don't I don't know exactly if this is how it works, but it is kind of funny knowing that after the events of Loki, like Loki is just sitting there at the base of Yggdrasil, the universe tree, and just basically watching this happen, knowing that Cassandra is about to destroy all of like all of existence forever, and he can't do anything about it.
Yeah. I mean, I'll admit I was really expecting like, to kind of just show up and just shut everything down kind of at the end there. But I mean, I guess you can't get all the cameos.
Yeah, I mean they had Thor for a hot second. So,
Yeah.
which I have two theories on that. First is the more boring theory. First is like that could be a reference to something I have planned for Secret Wars. I don't really know like how exactly it's gonna work. But like I maybe Thor and Deadpool are gonna have some kind of relationship, and it'll make sense for that to come full circle there. But my more fun theory is that during like very early production of this movie, uh, Ryan Reynolds pitched like a laundry list of fun ideas he would have for this movie, and one of them would be essentially a shot for shot remake of Thor: The Dark World with Loki and Thor being Deadpool and Wolverine instead. Up until like about the first half, so, like about when that scene happened, like that could be a remnant of that idea, just like seeing it win. Like that's funny, I think,
I can see
if
that
that is
happening. Yeah.
if that's what that was. But regardless, it's still fun to at least like see Deadpool kind of interact with other like I can say real like MCU characters at least a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um. Yeah. Like I said, I really enjoyed it. I can't really. Are there any other like overall thoughts you have on it before we go any further?
Oh, I mean, nah, I mean, this is really good. I do think that as far as we go with cameos, I feel like although there were plenty of other cameos, I still don't love the idea that they released the X-23 already knowing, like, because I feel like that would have been way better if we didn't know, because like you knew it was coming and you were kind of like, oh, where is she? And I feel like if you didn't know she was coming, it would have been a much better reveal for me personally. I'm not saying it took away from the movie, but like
Mhm.
that moment would have felt cooler, especially probably seeing her for the first time since Logan for most people at least not as the same character. So it's like
Mhm.
I think a lot of people would have
Yeah,
because even
I, like I definitely agree with you. However, for two things. One, I do believe that there were so many other bigger cameos than her that I think showing her didn't like ruin everything. If they had shown the entire lineup of the freedom fighters, I think that would have definitely ruined it.
yeah
Um, but like she, I mean, she of those four, she is the one that makes the most sense to be in Deadpool and Wolverine. So her showing up
yeah
wouldn't be like the biggest surprise. Also, uh, apparently she asked Kevin Feige specifically, "Can I be at the premiere?" And he was like, "Well, can only keep it a
uh,
secret. You haven't been in the trailers yet." And she insisted, so they put her in that most recent trailer, just so she could be
okay
walk the red carpet. So that's
well yeah that makes sense then, yeah I mean that's just if you really wanted to be and you're like you know what sure then like yeah but I don't know, I guess that was just a personal thought but I guess if real world reasons are
mm,
you know the why then yeah it is what it is but no big deal
yeah.
and
I
again
do
like you said
agree
there
that I do agree that it would have been if that wasn't a factor, like I guess technically the politics of it wouldn't have like if she could just be there, as she's a Wolverine actor, so why not be at the premiere of the next Wolverine movie? Like people might have speculated, but it wasn't like revealed officially. It would have been like better if we hadn't seen her before, but it makes sense that they had to do that, I guess. But if they had, if they had shown Johnny Storm, if they had shown Gambit, I think that would have ruined more than her.
yeah agreed and yeah I mean it's one of those things like because I say that mainly because like my brother did not see the trailers, and I
Mm.
could tell on his face when she came out, he was like, "Oh, is that the girl from Long?" And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
"Yeah." He's like, "Oh." Like so, and I was like, if we all had that reaction, I feel like it would have been pretty
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah. Apparently, my brother he told me before it started that he went in basically completely blind. Like he didn't, outside of knowing the title, he avoided all trailers, which I was like, that's impressive. But
Hmm.
like good because
Hmm.
he didn't know what this movie was gonna be at all. So that was fun. Like me kind of knowing, but then him not knowing at all. It was fun. But also me watching more X-Men and whatever stuff than he, so I was able to like explain stuff to him as it was happening. Um, so yeah, it's fun to be that guy sometimes.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. Um, yeah. It's kind of hard to like give a numeric score to a movie like this because, like I said, it's barely a movie. It's like I can't really
Yeah, but
like any issues I might have with with like villain motivations or pacing if I thought there were pacing issues or story whatever like I don't really care. So I don't really know how to weigh that over like the movie is clearly a celebration of these characters. It's clearly not taking itself very seriously, so everything just kind of works together in a very cohesive, fun way. So I don't really know of a good score to give it. If that makes sense.
yeah, I mean, personally, I feel like you have to score movies based on like kind of what they were, going for slash trying to do. And I
Mhm.
think it's kind of like I feel like the same rules as like Godzilla versus Kong, stuff like that. It's like
Yes.
if you're scoring that movie based on the storytelling, you're gonna be disappointed. If you're scoring it against giant monsters fighting each other, you're gonna score it
Mm.
very highly because it does a good job of
Yeah.
doing that. And I think this movie, kind of like you said earlier, like I feel like this movie kind of is just a commercial slash tribute slash like meme, you know.
Hmm.
So if you're going in expecting that, it's like a 10. But if you're going in expecting like, oh, dramatic themes and I mean, yeah, there are some moments that are like more serious moments that aren't
Hmm.
laughs and stuff, but I mean, the vast majority of it is
Yeah.
a joke and it's
Yeah.
expecting you to treat it that way. I mean, there's, a bunch of fourth wall breaks throughout the thing. It's very much not trying to be serious. And I feel like if you try to make it seriously,
Hmm.
you're gonna, yeah, you're just gonna treat it well. But I think basically if you categorize it the way it was meant to be viewed, I think it goes really well. And I think I great score, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Because yeah, like I said, it does have those those strong emotional moments, you know like Deadpool is basically on this whole movie trying to find his purpose, and like in the end, finally at least kind of starting to get back with Vanessa. Logan's whole backstory I thought was very compelling throughout. And you kind of got his deal kind of piecemeal throughout. Um, to like so if you walk out, you know, if you go in like let me put it this way, if you go in expecting it to do stuff that movies do, that stuff is still there. You can still appreciate that stuff, but don't don't expect it to like be Citizen Kane or some like high art thing. Like that is the story, but that's not really what the movie is about. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I would say at least an 8.5. If I'm just taking it wholesale, at least 8.5. Obviously, enjoyment level 9.5, 10. But like as far as a movie goes, I'll say 8.5 just to because obviously I could see some people not loving all the jokes. I could see some people think the action is like maybe not too long, but like there's if you don't because I have seen some people like complain about action movies having too much action in them, which I'm like, what are you watching an action movie for? Whatever. Um, like I can see some people thinking that the cameos like either took you out of it or took away from Deadpool and Wolverine specifically. Um, so so I'll be generous to that viewpoint and say at least an 8.5. But,
Yeah. I mean, personally, I think I don't know. Personally, I think it's like I'm viewing it based on what it is, not what just all movies. Like I can't put all movies in the same box because all movies don't do the
yeah,
same thing or try to do the same thing. So for what it was trying to be, I give it a 9.5. Honestly, it was really good.
yeah. That's yeah, exactly. Like that's why I couldn't be a real movie critic. Like I first of all, I know for a fact that I walk out of movies thinking they're better than they actually are in general anyway. And like only on
Mm-hmm.
after multiple weeks and after second viewings would that either, change. Um so I always like default to ranking stuff higher than I feel it maybe deserves, or just riding out vibes of excitement. And then after that kind of wears off, going down. So, it could be in a couple of weeks I think back in this movie and like I actually didn't like it that much. But as of right now, for what the movie was, I enjoyed it a lot. So
Yeah.
you're going in expecting it to be, a fun action movie with, Deadpool and Wolverine, and also a bunch of other Fox and other extended Marvel Universe cameos, and you know, fun jokes, and just a fun time in the theaters. This is that movie for you. So yeah,
Yeah. Excellent.
and clearly a lot of people had similar thoughts to us because um, this movie had a record-breaking $438 million opening weekend, the highest for any rated R movie of all time.
I think they did okay despite the rated R.
Yeah, yeah. The I think the highest before this for rated R was Joker, maybe.
I think
Um,
that's right. Yeah.
because I know that's currently the highest grossing. It's the only rated R movie to ever gross $1 billion. Because Oppenheimer like stopped just short. Maybe that, but one of those two made the is like the one that's beat. Um, but regardless, I think assuming it doesn't just fall off a cliff precipitously, I think $1 billion is a lot in like 3 weekends easily.
Yeah, most likely.
Yeah. Let me see if I can find. Okay, so no, just domestic and whatever. I'm still very much keeping my well. Inside Out 2 is projecting is going way more than I ever thought it would. Currently sitting at almost $1.5 billion. Actually, just over $1.5 billion. Although it didn't open quite as high as this movie. But that movie will have longer legs because it opened earlier in the summer. It's also a kids movie.
Mm, I think the rewatch value on that one's higher, definitely.
Yeah. Basically, because essentially, in order for Deadpool and Wolverine to beat Inside Out at the box office, they would have to beat Age of Ultron, which is at like right around 1.5. And I think I I want to believe that people are gonna like this movie more than that one because even at the time people didn't really love Age of Ultron. I think it's solid, but I could easily understand people like not really jiving with that. Um, I'll I'll stick to it. I'm sticking to my guns and thinking that Deadpool Wolverine will be the highest grossing movie of this year. Sticking to it.
You think so?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think so too. I think Inside Out 2, I do think it did definitely change all expectation, but I still think it's going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
Or did, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Um, yeah. Yeah. Obviously, we'll keep track of how this movie does at the box office. I think, like I said, generously 3 weekends. But I think considering Inside Out 2 did $1 billion, and I think it was how was it 10? It was 10 days to beat Dune 2, and I think another week or two to cross $1 billion. So I think I'm gonna say three, like by August. Um, I'll say by August 10th, it'll break $1 billion.
Probably going to beat that, but we'll see.
Yeah. Okay. So any other general thoughts about this movie before we wrap up?
I'm glad it happened, but I'm kind of sad 'cause I feel like we're not going to get another one.
Yeah. like it's one of those movies that this is gonna sound weird, but it's one of those movies that once it happens, I don't know the best way to say it. Like once a movie like this happens, you know that it can never happen again. So you almost like savor it more. You're never gonna get
Yeah.
that. You're never gonna get You're never gonna get that Gambit in a movie ever again. You're never gonna have Wesley Snipes come back as Blade ever again. You might have Deadpool and Wolverine team up again in like Secret Wars or something, but like you're never gonna have a
Maybe.
Deadpool and Wolverine movie again in the same way. So it's a little sad knowing that like we have it, but we can't experience it for the first time again.
Yeah, but I mean, that is just kind of the nature of movies. I mean, you're never really gonna. I mean, I know we're still doing Avengers movies, but like we're not gonna hit Endgame level again. Like that's just not gonna
No,
happen.
like there's nothing that they've built up so far that could even come close to Cap lifting Mjolnir.
No,
That's never happening ever again. Like,
the hype was on the theater, just erupting
just
for like every
erupted.
5 minutes. Nerds losing their minds. Like it's just the world stopped and it was glory.
Yeah. But yeah, experience it while you can. Like I know obviously we spoiled everything about it, but I still think it's worth it to watch it for yourself. So go out and watch it. And yeah. Anything else before we wrap up?
That's all I got from here.
All right. So with that, we will see you all next time.
Take care, everyone.